Let's go to trims. As you can see. Now, the steps where it says fine, I have people tell me, like, when you sit there and you're setting the trims and it's making sounds where after a certain point it gets so high only dogs can hear it, that means that you want to change fine to something else. The first thing I do is change it to coarse.
I usually go to medium first and then...
Of course you do.
Yeah, I like to go in steps.
No, coarse.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then range is how much trim it will allow you to apply to that specific control surface.
And you see where it says move trim to sub-trim right there? Can you explain that?
So we always had a lot of people that would trim out the radio and go, okay, now I want it to be centered. So that's what the move trim to sub-trim does basically, is it sets whatever trim you've manually set during flying onto that outputs sub-trim that you saw on this previous screen.
In OpenTX, you do that in the output screen where you hit it once and it does it for all the channels. According to this, you have to do it for each individual channel?
No.
No, it does it all at once.
So there is a way to move them all, if I remember right. It's a long press. Nope. There's a way to get it to move all. I can't remember what it is.
We'll get back to you, Ron.
Yeah. Let me see. I think it's what you have to do is click and hold the middle button while you click that, which I can't do on the simulator because there's only one mouse pad.
But it is possible. Okay.
Yeah, I know it's possible because somebody else asked that same question, and there's a way to do it.
All right, let's go into the timers really quick. This is something, it's not going to spend too much time in here, but this is how you set up your timers. We should go in there and go into edit. We're going to talk about, first of all, you want to give it a name. Well, up, down.
So most people want to have a flight timer, standard, your standard flight timer, count down from, you can have it count up or down, whichever you prefer.
You want to give it 7 minutes or 8 minutes right there. You would just change it there.
Yeah, it's not, this is going to be difficult here.
It's hard to do on the simulator, but typically it's very easy to do on the radio. We can show you that later on. The start condition is the thing that gets it to move.
So let's say the gear up position, so that, you take off, you put your gear up, it'll start the flight timer.
And then the stop condition is default or custom. Usually just stick with default.
Yeah. Default will let it keep running. So as you can see right now, I have the gear up. And so it's been running, since we had the countdown timer start at 000, it's already gone over the timer and started counting into the negative.
Okay. The one thing, okay, so we'll go to this, persistent, there's a reset, there's, so we have a reset where you can have it, so when you hit the reset, whichever button it is or whichever condition, it will bring it all back to 0. You can add a new audio action, that's pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to get into before people fall asleep is this is something that we get all the time. We get these, every once in a while we get somebody who writes in, hey, I had my plane up and it crashed. And it rolled to the left and rolled to the right, and we're supposed to identify that. And it's the first thing we ask them is, do you have telemetry logs on? And that is the number one thing that we look for. This is probably one of the most important things to take away today is how to turn on those telemetry log recording.
Yeah. And it's not under telemetry as most people would think. What you actually do is go to your special functions area, add a new special function, and for your action, it's going to say write logs. And then you also have to enable it. Everything defaults to disable for the most part.
See that little red light at the top there?
Let's do, hold on.
So you can give a switch to turn it on. So typically what I do is when I turn off my throttle lock,
It's not going red. That's a bug on the
it was on before, but
yeah, it just flashed on it for a second. So normally when you have the active condition is met, and as you can see, the special function is showing green, meaning it's active, and the write logs are writing, this little icon up in the top right corner is going to show red so that you know that it's recording the flight logs. This is very important because it gives you it not just logs the telemetry, but it also logs all your switch positions, your analog stick positions, and everything else that you can kind of read back through the flight and see what's happening with the model.
And there it's where it says write interval 250 milliseconds. 100 milliseconds is a tenth of a second, so that's a quarter of a second, or it's writing a log file 4 times a second. To me, that's pretty good. Some people want it. Sometimes I put it to 1,000 milliseconds or once a second. The less data you get, if your plane's flying okay, you're not having any problems, that's usually pretty fine. If you're really suspect of something, you can set it to 50 milliseconds. But that's a pretty fast rewrite. And if you're using something like X20S, I would suggest that you replace the memory card with something that can write a lot faster. The new radios we have, like the X20RS, have very fast memory, so you can have it at 50 milliseconds. It's just going to make larger files. However, these files are not very big. They're text files.
If you click on global there, will that automatically set it up for all of the planes that you've already created, or is that something you have to go in and redo for each one?
Nope, that's exactly what it'll do. It'll set it as a global function, so you don't have to do this on each and every model that you set up.
Even if it's already been even if you have models created.
But that's a good question, because a lot of times people will go, well, why can't I make it global? Well, if you use any condition that is a logic condition for the active condition, then the logic switches are not global. So if you don't have a global logic switch, you won't be able to have a global special function. So for example, you can set a logic switch up that is whatever condition here. Let's say logging. And you want that to be switch F at max. Then when you go back to your special function and use that logic switch for the active condition, see, it forces off the global option. So sometimes if that's ever disabled like that, it's because you're using a logic switch condition that is a per model thing. That's why it can't be set to global.
But if you want to use one switch forever, that's the best way to get it done. And I highly recommend it. All right, since we touched on telemetry really quick, but we didn't show how to turn it on, go into the telemetry screen.
Yeah. So after you register and bind the receiver, this is usually the first step that I do, is go to the telemetry page, and right now there are no sensors being displayed. You click on Discover New Sensors, and that's going to populate with all the sensors that are available that you have hooked up to your receiver or through your power or through your redundancy box system, and shows you the RSSI for both 2.4 and 900 and the VFR.
VFR stands for valid frame rates. We're not going to get into too deeply, but essentially that's link quality. And that is, to me, the most important thing. I don't really care too much about RSSI, but VFR is first, last, the only thing I care about when I want to know how much signal I have. In fact, we can probably set up a switch so I can play a value, right?
Yep. So once you have the telemetry sensors discovered, back under the special function screen, you can add another special function that will be play audio, and then you can scroll down a little bit. Actually, let me go ahead and just enable it.
Right.
And I'll just set it to A. That's fine. And add a new line, play value instead of play file, and you can tell it to use one of these telemetry values, such as RSSI.
But I would use valid frame rates.
Yeah. Now, with VFR and RSSI, it's helpful to know what your current VFR is, but a lot of times you want to know what's the lowest that it got. What's the lowest signal strength, or what's the lowest? As you can see, there's the hamburger icon again. So when you long click it, it brings up more options. Let me do this again. Oh, if I can get it to go. There it is. And now you can choose your minimum. Instead of invert, it gives you different options here. So in this case, it would play the value of your minimum VFR for that flight. So you can know, okay, if I hit a low spike or something, maybe I should bring it in and see what's going on. Instead of seeing what your current VFR is, you can see what the minimum value was.
As long as we're doing that, this is, the special functions do a lot of other things. So you can change, you could do things like you could turn off this, in Ethos 1.5, you can turn off the screen so you can't touch it. Cindy was mentioning another brand had problems with rain. It was shorting out the screen. So you can lock the touch screen as you're flying your plane, for example. We haven't had any issues with that, but if you want to be double, triple sure, if you're not going to be doing anything, you can turn that on. One thing I wanted to show was the black box function, because we've never talked about this.
1 second. I've just locked myself out of the touchscreen, so let me delete. I should not have enabled that. It's all right. Let's go back to model.
Oh, wow.
It locked the keys too.
It locked the touchscreen.
I locked the touchscreen, yeah.
Awesome.
So,
You gotta call tech support.
yeah.
Well, Brian's not awake yet. Great.
Let's see.
Restart the software. Reset.
Let me see if I can get this to scroll over.
Warning, Will Robinson. Danger.
Yeah.
So
It's so good. It locks the touchscreen permanently.
the suggestion there would be make sure you set the active condition
To a switch.
away from always on
To a switch.
whatever you want your switch to be before you enable the lock touchscreen. With the radio, it'd be easier to navigate around. It's just
You shall not recover.
with Steve's laptop, it's difficult to see if I can get it to do anything here.
This is on a model, right?
Yeah, it's on a model.
Let's create a new model.
That's what I'm trying to do right now. And it's just your laptop is not that great.
Oh, come on. It's an IBM.
All right, here we go.
Not idle.
Here we
Switch
go.
warning.
Oh, that's not going to work either because all I did was clone that model.
Why don't you select another model?
That's what I was trying to do earlier. It's just your...
Hit the middle ones are the tab. On the left, page up, page down is a tab.
Yeah, what do you want me to do?
So you can go into model, select. Okay, long press on MDL. Just long press on MDL and hold it.
Yeah.
And that should go into a model select. All right.
Yeah, your simulator is not working that well.
I need to
on
update the
this
simulator
laptop.
anyways. The last
Model
thing.
select. Let me see if I can get it onto a different model here.
Yeah. You can use the tab button. So the page up, page down is tab. Don't clone it.
Try the arrow keys.
Oh, here we go. All right.
Set current model, yeah.
Yeah, arrow keys
Not set.
weren't
Switch
working.
warning.
All right. Now we're in a good model here, I think.
All right. All right. So we have to go back into,
Why is
we have to
that?
register a receiver really quick and bind it.
Nope. It's still
Is this-
it's still got the touchscreen locked up.
All right.
Okay. Let me do something real quick. This will
How
just
about-
take a minute.
We're going to get a radio out.
Yeah.
By the way, who flies X-20S here? All right. You guys, I only have a few. Here we go. Those are from courtesy of. All right.
I'm just going to have to delete all your models here, so it'll...
Hey, thank you. That was from courtesy of FPV Builds. Those are gimbal protectors. Whee! All right. Thank you, Ben. So, let's,
all right,
I think we're done with that. I was going to say, if you, 1 second.
That should fix it. I just deleted those Twin Otter models.
Okay.
So
You get deleted. Is it working now?
I'll let you know in a second.
All right.
Welcome to Ethos.
Yeah, it's working now.
All right. Just want to show black box. This is kind of important. This is a cool little feature. So we're going to set up a new, we're going to register and bind internal module on, here he goes. So we go through the process. Register. As soon as you hold the registration button in, after you hit register, plug the battery in. It says registration okay, go to bind. Okay. Click on that again. And flight data recorder. That's the black box. So this is there, and this is really freaking cool. At the end of your flight, you can go back and look at everything. You can see, it gives you a basic, there was a lot more information when the flight's over as far as, it would show battery voltage, minimum and maximums.
And this is probably more important than telemetry logging, because this is going to tell you specifically if you've had a brownout detection or some other issue with your RX battery voltage, or a lot more in-depth detail. Now this does reset at power on, so if you do have any call outs like signal, low signal or something, you always want to check the flight data record before you power your plane down.
Can you write it to an SD card before?
At the very bottom.
Yes, at the very bottom you can save this data to a file. So it'll tell you if the board drew too much current. You can save save to file here.
And then send it to Ben.
Yep.
All right.
So it won't automatically do it. You have to go and.
Yeah, that's one of the suggestions I've pushed up the chain. Is that basically it should automatically save to file if any of those default values have changed. So if it changes from an OK to a fail state or something like that, it should automatically save the file. I don't know when they'll implement that, but that's something that we've suggested for them to.
Just send that data to that data folder. I can imagine if you saved it to an SD card, that data can't be that much, right?
Right. Yeah. Oops. I'm just going to adjust that sleep.
All right,
timer.
now it's Q&A time. Question.
I got a quick question. So, if you're dealing with updating your receivers along with updating Ethos and your transmitter, like changing versions, is there an automatic prompt that occurs in the Ethos suite to tell you if you've got disconjugate?
Nope. That's another thing that we've suggested to headquarters. I've told them that basically we need to have a version check so that if you do update your RF module or your receiver firmware and there's an incompatibility issue, that it would give you that warning. They haven't implemented that yet, but it's in the works.
However, there is something, we're working on Ethos Suite 2, and part of Ethos Suite 2 is going to be an RF. It's going to automatically look through all the receivers you have and download the latest firmware so that you can do an over-the-air update, which we can show you. It's pretty easy to do. So, yeah.
I just heard of people locking up their transmitter because of receiver transmitter incompatibilities.
It shouldn't lock up a transmitter.
Yeah. The only time the transmitter usually gets software bricked is if somebody puts the wrong bootloader firmware onto it.
Yeah.
That will prevent it from booting up. But it's usually still recoverable. You just plug it into the computer with the USB cable and with it powered down, and you can manually reflash the correct bootloader to the radio to recover it.
Question back there.
Yeah, two questions real quick. Do you know if these Frsky receivers can interface with a power box system?
Yes.
Yeah.
So PowerBox just wants S-Bus input. So any of our receivers, they all have S-Bus capability, can just run the S-Bus directly into the PowerBox.
The other question is, an equivalent radio like this from most other brands that I know of would probably run you $2,500. How has Frsky managed to keep the price point down?
So it's mostly because you're paying for brand recognition, you're paying for marketing, extra marketing stuff. We don't do any marketing really. We don't pay, except for coming out to shows like this. We don't do magazine advertisements. We don't do any of the, we don't have as big of a sponsored pilot team. Those shirts cost a lot of money. So we, we're more hardware focused and putting the investment resources into the hardware development and the software development, which you don't really see until you get your hands on the radio and start working with the systems.
And we stay in lousy hotels, places Katie would never. We have horror stories that we share with each other.
God, don't get us started.
You're over here.
Can I take his transmitter and hook it to this transmitter and copy a program
File.
Yes. So with the latest version, you don't even need to hook them together. You can do a wireless transfer from one radio to another. Yep. But you can't hook them together, but you can download his model to the computer and then copy it to your radio.
So at his house and me at mine.
No, you have to be next to each other to do Bluetooth wireless.
Yeah, the wireless
or you
transfer,
can send it. You can take it out of your transmitter, hook up to your computer, take it out, and email it out to him. He can put it in his. It's a lot more work to do it that way, but it can be done.
What's the simplest way? I'm a little confused.
Yeah. Oh, you want me to explain it a little more?
Well, yeah. What was the simplest way you said?
The simplest way is you guys stand next to each other, and there's a send model via Bluetooth.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the simplest. Bluetooth. Our Bluetooth is kind of interesting. We have Bluetooth Buddy Box built into all these transmitters as well. So you can, and it works great. You get the first 6 channels working. So you can have them fly your plane, and then when you feel uncomfortable, you just take it back and flip a switch, and you got control of your plane again. The other thing we have, one radio in particular, is the X20S, has Bluetooth audio. Some of us here wear hearing aids, or we have. If you don't think like you have enough sound coming out of your transmitter, you have a problem hearing it. They have these little JBL Flip 5 things that aren't horribly expensive, and you can blast it. Everyone in the field can hear whenever you have your landing gear go up and down. So it's a beautiful thing.
Yep. Do you have another question?
I was actually going to ask about the Bluetooth Buddy Box system. It was pretty straightforward. I haven't set it up yet. I've done it in OpenTX.
Yeah. So
it was a little convoluted.
it's kind of works the same like if you Bluetooth pair something with your phone. You put them into pairing mode. You find the device ID. And in the case of the radio systems, it gives you what's called the MAC address. So it's like a random, characters and numbers. And usually you just look at the last 4 and find it in the list. And then once you connect the two together, and I can probably do that on the simulator here. I'm not sure how if they
turn lights off really quick.
Here. So under the trainer mode.
Are you guys still going to be here on today and tomorrow? Do you have any questions to ask you?
We'll be at the airport.
Yep. So
Or that cheap hotel?
At the cheap hotel. We'll be at the airport tomorrow, but we'll be around today.
So what I'm doing is
Thanks.
usually you have your master radio, your slave radio. In this example, I'm setting up the master. I'm going to tell it, instead of using a trainer cable, to use Bluetooth. And then in this case, let me just disconnect. Oh, okay. Normally this would not be populated for the address here, and you would just click search devices. It would pop up. In this case, they just gave it a couple random names here.
Robin Ellis.
But you'd see the device ID of the slave radio. So on one radio, you set it as master. On the other one, you set it as the slave. And then, here it has search devices.
Is it going to find Alice again? All right, Bluetooth device.
Yeah.
1.
So the simulator is not the best for showing this functionality, but it's basically you can do the Bluetooth wireless, and
Usually
it's a lot easier on the
You look at
radio.
the last 4 digits, and you make sure you find it on the other radio.
So that could be something we could show you up here with a couple of the radios relatively quickly. Did you have a question back there, sir?
Yeah, so regarding outputs, I just got the radio, 2 days ago, and I took one of my airplanes that I had set up with a Spectrum system, and everything on that airplane, I've been flying the plane for a couple of years, was mechanically set up where the servos are all at center. And then I set it up on my X20 Pro, and the servos were no longer centered as they were with the Spectrum, so I started to use Subtrim. I said, well, that doesn't make much sense. I saw the PWM option there, pulse wave modulation. I'm guessing that's what that means. And I changed the center that way. Is that okay to do that? Or?
Yeah, so I believe Spectrum uses 1500 as their PWM center. Our systems use 1520. And so that's why you had to adjust that.
Yeah, okay. So it worked out pretty well. I just wanted to make sure, because you said there's like 4 ways to do everything anyway.
Yeah.
That was one of them.
Yep.
And as far as going back to the trainer thing, I also do FPV, and I use a head tracking unit. And with Spectrum, I'm plugging in a trainer cord to power the servos, but I can also set it up for Bluetooth. So how do I cancel out channels in there? Can you go back to that trainer screen? Where, like, if I want control of everything other than channel 9 and 10, say?
Yeah.
So works for the first 6 channels.
By default, it will only have the first 4 set up, so you can see channel 1 through 4. It's going to replace your aileron, elevator, throttle, and rudder. So just depending, let's say you don't want to replace the rudder, you just tell it off, and now it's no destination. So you can configure each of these trainer channels to be whether or not it actually does something or does nothing at all.
Saying off maintains control of the master.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
You can give them just one stick only, so the right sticks, all they have is ailerons and elevator.
Usually you want to take off the throttle because, that way you can control the throttle. And
yeah, well, I want to take off everything, so the trainer part of it is only my head is turning the 2 servos that control the gimbal. So basically, I want the radio to control everything.
And the radio also has a gyro in it, so you can actually tilt the radio.
Try that out, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And instead of replacing the actual analog input, you can have it actually just replace the entire channel output as well instead. So it's basically replacing it at the virtual level versus the hardware level.
Okay.
Can you speak to the OTA flash of receiver after your software's been updated?
Sometimes it works okay. Sometimes the OTA updates do have trouble communicating when you have that firmware mismatch between the two, because it just depends on how much rework of the telemetry algorithms they've done. So when there's a big overhaul of something with the telemetry, then you update your RF module. It may not communicate.
Yes, honey.
I only left it for a second. Yeah. It may not flash that OTA update at all, or it may get 90% of the way through and fail, or it may flash successfully, but then the receiver still has some funky issue going on. So you can manually update the receiver directly from the radio, from the top of the radio on the 3 pins. It just really depends on how much work on the telemetry.
Let's show off really quick how to do an OTA update.
I don't know if we can do it with the simulator.
I think it works. So we're looking.
Oh, no.
You have to go into model select. Yeah. File manager.
Because we don't have any files here to push to.
Oh, damn. All right. So you would find one of these and you would click on it and it would highlight it, and then it would say flash external module or flash by internal OTA. You select flash by internal OTA, and then it will say binding. And what you do is plug the receiver, plug the plane in, and it will come on.
This is.
Yes, it's viewer and
It'd be cool if you had a receiver here and.
I've got some receivers. We can.
Do we have batteries?
I have a battery.
Oh wow! We're going to show you how to do this.
cool.
All right.
You'd like to see too? I'm sorry.
I have a receiver, you said you want to
Oh.
demonstrate it?
We just need a battery.
We've got demo. Yeah. No, I got a battery.
We got a battery. Okay,
I got
we'll show you how to
everything.
do it.
Yeah. The only thing I should have firmwares on my radio. I should be able to do it.
Okay.
And also does Frsky offer an external module so I can control hundreds of Spectrum receivers?
Yes.
Yeah. So we don't make that module. It's a third party module.
Yeah, that's what I was
But yeah, we do have them, and they do work with the systems. It's the I range.
Offered it or not yet?
No.
They're for sale from our dealers. Yeah. And Bruce has them.
Yeah.
You can get them here. If Bruce is still here, he's taken off about noon.
Okay.
But a lot of our dealers sell them.
One thing on those modules to remember that I figured out, is you've got to change the channels. It may come up with about 16. If you've got a 8-channel receiver, go from 1 to 8. Don't have to 12. It'll.
Yeah.
Quick question that may be kind of very basic, but if you are wanting to update your receiver with the latest version firmware, is it best to try to do it through the Ethos suite or to go directly to the Frsky website?
For the receivers, you can't do it through Ethos Suite. So you
Not
have,
right now.
Yeah, not yet. You got to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, any other questions?
If you're part of the Frsky Ethos group, we have all the firmwares for all the different receivers. There's a download there. You can put it on your radio, and you can update any receiver at any time.
So you just sign up for that.
Just go to the official Frsky Ethos group.
Okay.
Cindy's there. I'm there. Ben's there. A lot of us are there.
So we'll do 2 demos. One will show the trainer, and then one will show the firmware updates. But we have to do those with the radios here.
Okay.
So let me grab actually, let's do the trainer first. Trainer's easy.
Okay.
So let's say this is the master radio. It's already bound up with your model. I'm going to scroll over to the trainer screen that we brought up before. I'm going to tell it to be the master radio. Steve is going to get the slave radio. This will be the one that the student's using.
Oh, you did set this back to, how about, let's try that. English. How about, let's grab the other radio. All right.
Okay. And what I'm going to do is tell this one, instead of using a trainer cable, I want it to be Bluetooth mode.
Okay.
Are you able to plug a trainer cable in somewhere?
Yeah. So on the top, it has a DSC port. I can't remember which one it is. Okay, this one on the left. And that's...
Looks like an audio jack.
Yeah. So it has a headphone jack, so you can plug headphones in, but it also has the trainer port, the DSC port.
So you hit the airplane icon, and the thing that says trainer is not on the first set of screens. You can either press the tab key right here, or you can scroll all the way over. Keep scrolling until you get to the trainer. Turn it on. I'm going to select mine up for slave.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So here it'll tell me my local address is this random bit of characters. Distant address is not connected yet, and I'm going to search devices.
And I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go to Bluetooth. Let's take it off the trainer cable.
And what's the last 4 digits
BC1E.
of your local? So after I click search devices, I'm going to look for BC1E. In this case, it came up to the top. Sometimes it's just randomly in the list here. It's probably finding all of our phones as well.
Yeah.
And it'll say Bluetooth device connected. Now that's the first step. The second step is you actually have to tell it when to give control over. That's the active condition. So if Steven moves the sticks right now, it'll show stuff happening here. That's your elevator you're moving?
Elevator, there we go.
So, but it's not actually replacing the channels yet because I have not set an active condition. So I'll click on active condition, and I'm going to tell it I want it to be when I hold the switch up, and I'll hit return or just click off of the screen. And now when I hold it up, there's a little icon in the top right that says it's the master trainer becoming active.
Ben, let me fly your plane.
So let me go back to the output screen.
Okay.
Right now, I've got control.
Right.
Steve, move
Can I
the
fly your plane,
sticks.
Ben? Come, let me fly.
He's
Let me fly.
jamming the sticks and nothing's happening.
Yeah.
As soon as I give him control, now
I'm scared. I'm scared. Like, take it back. Take it back. Take it back.
And now I have the control again. So let me just click something here. I should have closed that.
I'll just close the laptop.
Yeah, I'm just going to close this.
All right, so we got that one set up.
Oh, I had a bunch of them open. So that's how the trainer function works. We also have a module that goes on the back of the radio that you can bind the slave radio to the module and plug it in, and then it works the same way to send the trainer data to the radio.
It's actually what it has is like a little receiver on the back of it, and it's good for about 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
So. Can you speak to probably another pretty basic thing about the advantages, disadvantages of selecting dual frequencies for your transmitter?
Dual bands?
Yeah.
Okay.
So 2.4 and 900, it's called tandem, and the way that I like to explain it is it's like a tandem bicycle. Two different people doing the same thing on the same mode of transportation. With twin, which is our dual 2.4, it's like having two of the same people, two 2.4 links. The application difference is depending on how you're flying and whether you're flying far away, whether you're flying behind buildings or behind trees or stuff like that. That's where the 900 megahertz has better range and better penetration through those solid objects. For most of what you guys are doing with the line of sight flying, really the dual 2.4 is more than sufficient. But most of you guys like being on two completely separate bands just because it's a little bit better peace of mind knowing that you're on two completely separate, bands separated.
2.4 is a beautiful thing. I mean, it works very well. The problem is that the hardware hasn't changed over the years. It's the environment that's gotten worse. And the other thing is that I typically find that a crash happens within good times or bad times. Good times when you take your plane home and everything's great. Bad times when you pick it up in a trash bag and leave it at the field. Take out the parts you want to keep. So I usually find that it comes down to 2 seconds. Usually when the plane is turning. Look at this, I have a plane. So when the wings are turned down, you have receiver, the null is pointed to the sky, once to the ground. It's usually happiest when it's like this, because in the back of our transmitter, we have something right here. It's on the same plane as this. As we then calls it a pizza, I call it a pizza. I call it a pizza, you call it a donut, right?
Yeah.
Big donut coming around here, so a big round circle. These things are great. When this turns like this, all of a sudden, the pizza's in the wrong direction. So
the reason I call it donut is pizza's still flat and it's more like a disc. A donut is more like a torus, so it has, basically a knoll that caves. It's more like a rounded donut. So, and that's what the transmission pattern.
But the pizza's larger.
Depends. I've seen some pretty big donuts.
Donut? All right. So I think pizza.
Yeah.
All right.
So now, were there any questions on the trainer functionality? Nope. All right. Let's show the OTA update real quick. I think I've got firmwares on this one.
Sure.
So updates. Let's see. I need
the battery. You got the receiver.
Yeah. So.
Just a quick question while he's loading that up. Is the 900 long range just for long distance?
Pretty much, yeah. So in penetration, like I said, behind buildings and through trees and stuff like that. So on my radio, I've already gone to our website and downloaded the firmware file for my receiver. So I can come over to the gear icon, which is the radio setup area. That's where you can find the file manager for all the files you've copied onto the radio.
Let's talk about that in a minute.
And then I'm going to scroll down to where I have my update on my basically my SD card or my internal radio memory. I'm going to choose the TDMX. Actually, I don't have the latest firmware, but it should be fine. Nope, I'm sorry. I'm going to choose TDR10 instead because that's easier to flash here.
By the way, we have very nice, very lovely T-shirts for sale. What we do for these is we help support the youth pilots. They're $20 a piece, and then all the money goes directly to the youth pilot program.
Anything on the back?
It's lovely in the back. Look at this. It says Frsky.
Okay. Before you can flash the OTA, you have to register and bind the receiver. I'm not sure if I have this one registered and bound yet, so I'm just going to walk through that process real quick. I'm going to go to my internal module, change it to TD mode. Sure, no problem. And click on, first I have to turn the module on. I'll click on register. And then while I power up the receiver, I'm going to hold the button down. This is for the registration process.
Register.
It shows up as the TD10R. I'll click on register. So now it's registered. This radio knows this receiver. And now to bind it, I'm just going to click, let me clear out this bind real quick. Clear. I'm going to click on RX1. It says waiting for receiver. I don't hold the button now and just power it on. Again, it shows TD10R. I'll click on that.
TDR10.
It says TD10R. I know.
Oh, Jesus.
So, and now it's registered. The blue light tells me that both 2.4 and 900 are working. So now that I've got it registered and bound, I can push the firmware update OTA. So I'll go back to the file manager, find my update file, TDRX, TDR10, and the .frsk file. When I click on it, it gives me a bunch of options. There's flash external device, which is whatever you have plugged in by the cable up here. There's flash receiver by internal OTA and flash receiver by external OTA. So we do have external modules. In this case, I'm doing it all with the internal module. So I'll choose flash receiver by internal OTA.
Bind.
It's going to say waiting for the receiver. And just like with the bind process, you power it up without clicking the button. It finds it there, TD10R.
Picked it up just now.
Says current version is the same version I'm flashing. So it's basically a confirm that you want to overwrite that version. And now it's flashing the receiver over the air and updating it.
Pretty simple.
Yeah. So, and there's a few videos that show this process a little bit slower than I've kind of gone through it. And it just takes it maybe like 3 to 4 minutes to flash. So
Thank you guys for all the videos too, by the way.
sure. So yeah, Steve will have a new channel, Frsky Steve YouTube channel. I've got Frsky Ben RC tech support channel on YouTube where I've got a few videos. We kind of have different filming styles. So Steve will go through like all the steps from start to finish very slowly and like cover pretty much the A to Z. And sometimes the videos run a little bit longer, and that works for a lot of people because they can follow all the steps in one video. Some people like to just say, I want to know exactly how to do this one thing. And I try to keep my videos like 2 to 3 minutes long, just show the one specific function that people are asking about and try to keep them a little bit more broken out, so to speak, so that, you know, you may have to go through 5 videos where he's got it all condensed into one. So everybody's got different learning styles, and some people prefer one or the other. So that's just going to run in the background, and then when it's done, it just says flash is successful.
You hear a beep, it'll beep. Yeah.
Another question while we're waiting. Rates and rates. I mean, I can go well above 100% in that. So what does that all mean? I don't understand that.
So some servos, they'll have extended travel, but like at 100% weight, you'll get 90 degrees travel, but you can bump it up to 120% weight and squeak out like 110 degrees travel. So some servos, just the way that they're manufactured, have extended travel built in that they can go beyond that 100% rate.
Like in the mixer, I can go like 350%. I mean,
Yeah.
When would I ever do that, or why would I do that?
I'm not sure. Honestly, I've never run into a case scenario where I would need to bump it up to that amount.
I'm looking at seeing if we could rip the receiver out of here and go flying with this afterwards. I remember these have the screws are under the receiver's right under there, so we have to take the wing off to get to it.
Yeah.
We'd have fun doing that though. We'd never be invited back again, but it would be great.
I could get the Aeroscout hooked up real quick. I've even got the module and the
Let's go do that. Let's go have fun flying.
Model file on air because I fly one of them back at home. So
I guess I'm trying to
relate the word weight, what that actually is doing in the radio? Is there, I mean...
It's basically the same as travel, but it's the difference between setting your min and max outputs to be the maximum that servo can go before it starts squealing or whatever. And then the weights and rates are going to be like your high rates, low rates, where you're consolidating that even further so that the servo will never travel beyond the output min and max, but then your sticks can move it 80% of that amount to get your throws for your high rate or low rate. So sometimes the rates are the like for some of the like Horizon Hobby planes, it'll give you the throw directions and like inch measurements and stuff. So even though the servo at 100% min and max will travel 2 inches, it may tell you to do only 1 3/8 travel or something like that. So that's where you use the rates or weights to dial in how much actual throw you're going to be giving it from the sticks. So that just finished.
Telemetry lost.
And I always like to just give it a power cycle afterwards just to make sure everything is going well.
Telemetry lost. Telemetry recovered.
And it's back up and running now.
Let's put it in the timber. Let's go. We can have fun.
Yeah, I bought this radio yesterday. Has it been updated, Steve?
This radio yesterday, it's been, this one, yeah, I updated it to 1.5.6, I believe.
This one that I bought.
Yeah.
Has it been updated?
We can check it too as well. We have the laptop and internet in here, and that literally only takes a couple minutes to do. So.
We'll take a look and see if there are any updates.
Okay. Sorry, one second.
So your Frsky main business in California now, is that different from Horace USA?
Yes. So Horace is a distributor
based in China.
Based in China. We don't have any access to Horace RC sales data or anything like that. So when you buy something from them, if you have any issues with it, you pretty much have to go through the overseas representation to get any help with it. Right. With our dealer network, the U.S. dealer network, when you buy from one of our dealers, we support you because we can work with the dealer to get RMAs issued for you, working with the service department so that you can send your radio in to have the gimbals tightened up or the throttle ratchet taken out. So we have more control over what our accounts are doing with the product versus what Horace is doing with it.
Your central business in California sell product directly or only through your dealers?
We try to go through dealers, and the reason why is, there's our relationship. The only reason we grow as fast as we can is because of our dealer network. So, for example, we had 4 dealers here this week, Joe Nall. One of them, Bruce from A&E RC, he basically gave us the land next to his trailer, and just, great guy. He's been around. He knows thousands of people. And he said, I sell Frsky, and people believed it. And the reason they trust our Frsky is because they trust him. And so we have a lot of dealers like that. We had Mike from Gator RC. We had Dale from Buddy RC. We had Greg from Booma here, which is part of Heli Direct. We had Harry from Tailslide Aviation. So, all these people have relationships with different people. I highly, and I do mean highly, recommend that you go through a dealer. Develop a relationship with at least one of these guys, get to know them, because I know that you can order the stuff. Everything's fine when things are okay, but the moment something goes astray, then seriously, some of these guys, if I get a phone call on Sunday, I will answer it, because I know they won't call me on Sunday unless it's really important.
Is there a central list of your dealers?
Yes, there is.
Yep.
Just by doing a web search or something?
On the Frsky RC website, at the very top, it says purchase. And when you click on that, it'll give you a list of all of our global dealers and our North America dealers. Yeah. So we build these relationships with all of our dealer accounts to try to get local representation of our products. So no matter who we run into at whatever event that we're at, we can tell you, go down to their shop, you can get hands-on with the radio, they'll be knowledgeable about the systems and be able to help answer any questions about them that you may have. And that it's kind of also to help build back up the hobby shop market, because it's tough, yeah. So we really like to promote our dealer network. The only time that we really sell directly is it's hard for our dealers to carry every replacement board and replacement switch and ribbon cable and this and that. So when you do need certain spare part, we can sell those directly to you through our service center, because again, the dealers don't really like to stock every little nut and bolt that makes up the radio.
A good example of what happened, we had a guy who we deal with in Mexico. So North America, Mexico's part of it. He ordered something, it got stuck in customs. We had to have our warehouse manager get in contact with the customs people through FedEx, go to the customs people. He got things done. One of his buddies, he gave my name to one of his buddies who had the same problem, but he bought it from Horace RC. And I said, I'd love to help you. I have no idea who you are or anything about you or the order or anything else. There's no way I can look the stuff up or give tracking numbers or anything. So that became a nightmare for that guy, because, I mean, essentially, we're here because of the North American dealer network that we have. We support the dealers.
Sir.
Yeah. Can you show me what happened to you get locked out?
Oh.
I mean, is it a setting or a switch that needs to be set, or?
Oh, no, that was.
So I'll just touch on that real quick. Sorry, Steve.
Okay.
So when you add a new special function and you choose that lock touchscreen action, the first thing that's going to happen is the state is going to be disabled. My mistake was that I just enabled it right away instead of changing the active condition. Usually you want to flip a switch and have the screen be locked. So first thing you would want to do would be set the active condition to be whatever switch you want to lock the screen, and then enable it. Now I can toggle that switch off and not have to worry about my screen being completely locked out. And then when I toggle it on, now my screen is locked so I don't inadvertently touch it. So
You just don't want it always on.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, don't.
Not always on and enabled at the same time, because then, and it would have been easier to fix that issue with the physical hardware. It's just with the laptop on the simulator, trying to drag this around to select a different model or navigate the system. It's a little clunky, like Ron was asking about it.
A couple of trivial type questions. What is the file extension for an Ethos model file?
A bin file, BIN.
And the second one is 2.4. You can have a ton of models.
You can bring it up here. We'll take a look at it.
Sorry, I can barely hear you.
You can have a whole bunch of models, a bunch of pilots, and they're all flying on 2.4.
You can bring your radio up.
How many models can be there on
You can bring your radio up.
I believe it's 25 channel separation. That's something that I need to write it down, because everybody always asks that and I always forget what the exact answer is. You can go on the FCC website, and on the bottom of the radios it has the FCC ID well, maybe not on this radio, on the back here. It has the FCC certification ID, and you can look at the test reports and it'll tell you the exact band range it's using, how many channels it's using, and how much the channel separation is between those channels.
I was just curious, because several years ago I was flying FPV. I had the PBS module stuck in the back.
I'm assuming it's the top of the line currently.
I thought everything was
Yeah, it's the very top of the line. Yeah.
Another fellow had 900 megahertz.
Yeah. And that also depends on the power output setting you have for the 900 megahertz. So the receiver and radio communication, it's kind of like two people in the same room having a conversation. If I'm sitting here yelling at you at the top of my lungs, you may have a hard time hearing me. And if you get multiple people in the same room all yelling at each other at the top of their lungs, nobody can have that can have conversations, right? And same thing with RFs. if everybody bumps up their output power to 1 watt output, it's like everybody in the room is screaming at the receivers, and so none of the receivers have, are going to be able to communicate with the radios.
Three people trying to talk to an ATC and key in the mic at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Ben, do you have your USB-C cable?
Yes.
Thank you. I bring this every event I go to and never remember to turn it on. Okay, here we go.
So,
thank you.
Telemetry lost.
What's the easiest way to import a picture?
I'm sorry?
What's the easiest way to import a picture, like for model setup?
So on the Ethos suite, there's an image converter, and when you plug in the radio, it will allow you to basically drop that image into the converter, convert it, and it'll put it right into the into the radio bitmaps.
Oh, thank God, this was hotter than hell in here.
Yeah, Sky Raccoon. Those are the ones that I usually use. So Sky Raccoon and Air RC are pretty much the same. Steve, did you bring business cards?
Business cards? Yeah.
Yeah, and then I've actually got one from Steve.
Okay.
So, there you go.
How you need.
Thanks.
See, I can get
Yep.
external module.